So hi, I'm Steve Schnall, and as you may know, I'm the Chairman, CEO, and President of Quontic Bank. I'd like to tell you a little bit about where Quontic came from. In 2009, there were hundreds, maybe at least 1,000 banks that failed at that time. And so we found a tiny little bank in Great Neck, Long Island, which was under a cease and desist order by its regulators. It was essentially a startup, but we already had the benefit of the charter. So we bought the bank. The first thing we did is we moved it out of Great Neck to New York City. And first stop, Astoria, Queens. We spent several years with our headquarters in Astoria, and that's where we really started building our lending business, and to a lesser extent, our deposit gathering business. So out of one retail bank branch in Astoria, with mortgage lending offices and corporate offices upstairs, Quontic was really born. From that point in time, we grew the mortgage business using a very niche or unique lending strategy. We focused on lending to people who Wells Fargo, Capital One, the big banks just didn't have any interest in. Largely it was immigrants. We do a ton of lending in the Chinese American community and other immigrant communities. We also do a lot of business. We make a lot of loans to self-employed businesses, small business owners, millennials, gig economy workers, people who are hardworking with good credit and resources, but maybe fall outside of the credit or income documentation box that was mandated under the rigid ability to repay requirements of Dodd-Frank. So here's where we grew up, and as a function of our making loans to these families and these investors and these people, we ultimately learned that we were eligible to apply for certification as a CDFI, which is a Community Development Financial Institution. So Quontic is a CDFI, and this is a United States Department of Treasury designation which fewer than 2% of banks in the country hold. And we hold that designation as a result of our mission to lend in low-income communities and to low-income people nationally. So as a CDFI, one of our main advantages are that we're exempt from ATR, or the ability to repay requirement under Dodd-Frank. And now this gives us a huge competitive advantage because, like I said, fewer than 2% of banks are CDFIs, so fewer than 2% of banks hold that exemption from ATR, and most of those banks aren't even really active in mortgage lending anyway. So now we can fulfill our mission in lending to the underbanked. We can do so at profitable yields to the bank, which enables us to afford to be able to continue to grow the bank using retained earnings versus having to go out and continuously rely on raising capital. And so that's sort of the history of how we got where we are from a lending perspective. But there's this whole other side to the story, which is the digital bank side to the story. And when we bought Quontic, formerly Golden First Bank, in 2009, my view was people didn't want to go into bank branches anymore. The bank branch was a dying model. The internet was exploding. Everybody had a smartphone. People had online bank accounts. Mobile banking was starting to grow in popularity. And it didn't seem to make any sense to spend a lot of money and a lot of resources opening a network of bank branches. Along the way, it's been 10 years. We didn't build a very sticky core deposit franchise, and that led to some trouble. And so necessity is always the mother of invention, and we pivoted in a very concerted way to ultimately being able to begin to realize my vision of being an online digital bank. And so Quontic, as you now know, is the adaptive digital bank, and we are one of the first and most highly visible digital banks in the country, focused purely on building a suite of innovative, adaptive, online digital banking products that are unique in the marketplace and that set us apart from all of our competitors. So we think we've got a really exciting story. As a CDFI, we've got unique exemptions to enable us to make really great, profitable loans to an underbanked population. And as a digital bank, we're setting the path for what the future of banking is supposed to look like.